I'm about to teach you everything you need to improve on a more advanced level in SMP PvP. In my last guide, I went over all of the basics, so today I will go over some more advanced strategies that are also fully applicable on any level. The things I will go over in this guide are gap value, playstyle adaptation, how to play and counter specific ping ranges, and lastly some advanced mending tricks. First, we have gap value. Gap value is important because it tells you when you should aggro pearl and when you should rather heal. For example, if you're at 2 hearts but your opponent is at 7, your gap value is higher because you get more benefit from the golden apple than your opponent does. If you and your opponent are at the same health, you have the same gap value. Keep in mind that you only want to aggro pearl if you have more health than your opponent, and if they get their gap off, you want to pearl away and heal. Next up is ping. Your ping and the ping of your opponent are one of the most important factors to consider in a fight, since they should directly affect how you play and style your actions. First, I will explain what low and high ping even is. With a ping value less than or equal to 50 ms, you can consider yourself low ping, because your gameplay actions take an equal amount of time to register as the speed of the Minecraft server, which at peak conditions runs at 50 milliseconds per tick or 20 ticks per second. Essentially, your ping is the amount of time it takes for the server to recognize your player actions. Any ping higher than this can be considered high ping. For 51 to 100 ms, the difference can be somewhat noticeable, but usually doesn't have a huge impact on gameplay unless you're at the higher end of this range. However, for any value that is 101 ms or above, you will definitely notice the gameplay difference if you've also played on low ping. Now, let's get into the key gameplay differences. With low ping, your player actions run at the same speed of the server, meaning that things like gapping, mending or shielding aren't delayed. This means that you can go with a reaction based playstyle, because you have a flexibility to execute actions at the speed of the server you're playing on. With high ping, your player actions run slower than the speed of the server, which means that most of your actions are delayed. In this scenario, you want to use a prediction based playstyle, because you want to predict how the server or player will respond. When executed correctly, it can be insanely powerful because of gameplay aspects that come with high ping, one of which is delayed or even reduced knockback. Finally, let's go over how to fight in specific ping scenarios. First up being low ping versus low ping. These fights usually involve both players utilizing reaction based techniques and playstyles, being the full aggro or defensive playstyles. These unforgiving playstyles are best on low ping because it allows you to jump reset consistently while being able to effectively disengage and heal without lag interruptions. Low ping versus high ping. Even though this scenario basically never happens in tier tests, we will still quickly go over it. For this example, we will assume that you're playing on low ping and your opponent is on high ping. In this scenario, you will almost always want to engage in a playstyle based around shield pressure or disables, because high ping players have a disadvantage when it comes to that. You almost never want to engage in 3-block or ground trade scenarios against a high ping opponent. This is because high ping players can counter you pretty easily with delayed knockback and crits. High ping versus high ping. This is a scenario you mostly see in equal ping fights for tier 2 plus tests, where two opponents of different regions find a region or server that has them at a ping difference of 35 or less. It's one of the hardest scenarios to master, but if you do, it can be extremely useful if you ever find yourself in a fight like this. In this case, you will likely want to use a rather defensive or safe aggro playstyle because it's the most effective on this ping range. Playstyle adaptation. One of the most important things in high tier SMP fights is being able to change your own playstyle depending on the playstyle of your opponent, to increase your winning chances by a lot. I'm gonna show you an example of one of my own low tier 2 tests here, where I had to change my playstyle in order to be able to win against my opponent Dream SMP. In the first round of the test, I was getting countered by his very strong melee due to his high tiers and no shield gameouts, and my armor ended up breaking before his. After that, I started playing a lot more aggressive to win durability, and I ended up beating him in all following 4 rounds using this playstyle. Generally, after losing a round, you should try to find the reason you lost and look for a potential solution. For example, if your opponent keeps barely beating you in durability due to their aggressive playstyle, you should play a lot more defensive and pearl whenever you need to prevent losing dur. Advanced mending. Even though mending might seem like the most easy thing to master in SMP, it's not just about mending all of your pieces to the same durability and taking your shield off. Shorter early mends can be very useful to aggro the opponent later on. Aggro mending is one of the most effective and underrated strategies in SMP, since it can turn a lot of fights around. Firstly, it's possible to catch your opponent off guard with it and get a free win while they're mending with most of their armor off. Secondly, it can win a lot of durability, since they won't be able to mend correctly while being chased. And lastly, it can drain a lot of pearls, which can lead to easier trades later on. Whenever you're being aggroed while mending, you should attempt to not waste too many of your pearls, but still get away from your opponent to get a proper mend off. This can be done by double pearling, like shown in the clip. I hope I could help you with this guide. I also sell training lessons in my Discord, which is linked in the description, in which I go in detail on what you can improve and how.